Good morning, it's Wendy Jacobs here with another quick video message. And this morning, I want to talk to you about the purpose of relationships. Had a little think about this morning as I was thinking about what it was that I wanted to share with you. And what came to mind was, what is the purpose of relationships? I mean, why do we need them? So many of us try so hard to avoid them, but really they're a place that we keep going back to over and over again. Not always an intimate relationship, but relationships nonetheless. One of our highest, greatest human needs is our need for love and our need for connection. And there's no greater place to experience that than in the place of relationship. So relationships, for me these days, what I believe its purpose is to serve our greatest good, our highest purpose. Now, what does this mean? Well, being the place where most of us go to experience love, and love is who we are. Relationships is a place where we're often challenged, when we find it difficult to love. When you get to experience love in a relationship, it is euphoric, and there is no better feeling. But when things are not going that great, and you can't experience the love that you know exists, it can be quite painful. And so many of us will be really challenged in trying to find our way back to that place, back to that feeling of love. And in this process, we often learn to do things like have compassion, learn forgiveness, patience, understanding. We learn to cheer each other on, to support, and sometimes even to let go. These days, I honestly believe that the purpose of relationships is to help us fulfill our highest intention, our purpose, the reason we are here. I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about this, because I've come to notice that I've really stepped into a new paradigm as to what I believe relationships are for me these days. Because there was one time in my life where I believed that the purpose of relationship was to get married and have children and live happily ever after. And I believed that that was the purpose of my relationship so strongly that I held on to it with everything that I had. And yes, I'm glad that I did, because in that space, I learned so much about myself. It gave me the greatest gifts and really shaped me into the person that I am here today. And in many ways, it was the greatest blessing of my life. But these days, I hold a whole new view as to what the purpose of relationships are for me. I want to give you a little bit of a back-end story to help you understand how I came to this. So at the end of my relationship, my marriage, I was in a difficult place of conflict. I was in a space of trying to decide whether I wanted to continue committing to this marriage or whether it was time to let go. And honestly, this was such a difficult time for me. I felt that I'd given it my all. I had put everything I possibly could into this marriage. And I only really had one vision for my life. I really didn't know how to live outside of this marriage. I'd never even considered that possibility. But I was in a very painful place. And I went to see a really dear friend of mine who asked me one simple question that gave me so much clarity. And as difficult as it was at the time to be honest with myself, when I was in that moment, I knew straight away that the end of that relationship as I knew it was over. I'm going to share with you what that question is, but I also want to tell you that this didn't necessarily mean that our relationship ended. What it meant was that our relationship transformed, and I'm going to explain that a little bit further too. So as I was having this conversation with my friend, she said to me, look, I'm just going to ask you one question. I think it's going to be really helpful. And what she said to me was, does this relationship make you more or less of who you are? In that moment, I knew exactly what the answer was. And I really didn't even know what to do next. But I absolutely knew without a shadow of a doubt that the relationship was making me less of who I was. Now, this was really difficult for me to admit, because yes, I loved my husband dearly and my family, and letting go of that marriage was not what I'd ever had planned for myself. But I also knew that I was in a place where I was miserable, I was hurt, and I wasn't living to my highest potential. And I'd actually been in this place for many, many, many years now. So by being honest with myself, I knew that the relationship had served its purpose and that it was now time to let go. It was actually now time to let go and transform this relationship into something else. So I also hold on to the beliefs that relationships never end. They never do. They simply transform. So the end of my marriage is I knew it was over, but not the end of our relationship. My former husband and I continue to have a relationship today where we are very much committed to each other in the way of our friendship, care, and the raising of our 3 beautiful children. We decided that very early on, at the end of our marriage, that was the purpose of our relationship at that point, that the highest good for that relationship was to continue to be the best parents we could possibly be, whilst being good friends to each other. Now, I'm not going to lie and tell you that this was always easy, because it wasn't. It was filled with challenges. But having that vision in mind helped us so much during that process and continues to help us today. And so although our relationship has somewhat ended, the marriage relationship has ended, the relationship itself has simply transformed. And in that transformation, allowed a space for me to start tapping into the best version of myself again. Okay, I had to learn new things. I had to learn how to let go and continue to love. I had to learn to forgive. I had to learn how to experience happiness, love, and joy and passion outside the context of my relationship. There were many challenges that came with that. And the reason that I share this with you this morning was that when I recognized that I was not living to my highest potential in my relationship, I knew that it was time to let go. That meant for me a complete shift in the direction of where my life was heading at the time. And I didn't even know where that was, honestly. I really didn't. But what I did know was that this relationship had been one of the greatest gifts that was ever given to me. Because in this relationship, I had gotten to experience levels of love. I'd got to experience forgiveness, compassion, understanding, respect. There were so many gifts that came from that relationship. So in my eyes, it was an absolute success. And I really want to encourage you today to look at some of the relationships in your life that may have not turned out the way that you would have planned or you envisioned. But take a moment to notice the gifts that you received from them, because that was the purpose of the relationship. The purpose of that relationship was to serve your highest good. Perhaps there were things that you needed to learn. Maybe you needed to learn how to set boundaries. Maybe you needed to learn how to let go. Maybe you need to learn how to forgive. Whatever it was, there were gifts in that relationship that if you choose to take them on, help you today be the best version of you. So this is all that I really wanted to talk to you about today. I wanted to talk to you about what I believe is the purpose of relationship, which is to help you become the best version of you, and how you could do that despite what the relationship looks like. Because relationships don't always turn out the way we plan. But if we are open and committed to our highest values, then we can transform that relationship into something beautiful and let go of what we believe that it needed to be, and continue in our own personal self-growth so that we can continue to be who we were born to be. I hope this message was helpful for you today. As always, live consciously and filled with love.